Well, hello, everybody. This is Larry from the Blue Collar Nation podcast. And I'm here with my creative business partner, Mr. Eric Sprague, the Tech Whisperer. What's up, Eric? How are you today?
I'm just impressed. Like week after week lately, you've been saying nice things about me. I think it's because you want help building out your van. So you're trying to butter me up. Is that what's going on here?
I've been talking to clients, and I try and connect the word with what the clients are saying.
Okay.
And as I digress into the advertisement for Super Tech University, who sponsors this podcast, one of our clients told me that your presentations to the technicians every day was very creative in the way you connected with them. Your tech whispering skills were shining. And the client said that his technicians, both male and female, which was wonderful because I like getting feedback about the females, said they love the lessons, they're changing, and things are moving really well. So you're like Uncle Eric Tech Whisperer that's talking to everybody and they're responding. So
I'll take that all day.
Keep being creative.
I will do my best.
Yeah,
how do people find Super Tech University?
So go to supertechu.com, supertechu.com, and check out the sample videos, check out the creative knowledge that Eric spills out for the technicians, and you will be totally happy in the behavior and the performance of your technicians.
There you go.
Boom. And back to the show.
Wow, Larry, you're a radio
I have a couple of quick
pitchman.
thoughts because we've done so many podcasts together.
Okay.
Larry, congratulations, because I know it was painful to do lavish praise towards Eric. So, number one.
Thank you, Al.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Al understands.
Yeah, no, I've been around the corner here with you guys, and yes, I know their stuff, and I know that going to you in California and was Maine, and you sure you guys didn't grow up in New York? Because there's a heavy dose of sarcasm.
Oh no, I grew up in Jersey.
Larry grew up in Jersey.
Jersey, that's my boy. There you go.
There you go. Stand back.
All right.
Well, you know what it's like, Al. You got a bunch of brothers, and you beat each other up all the time.
Love each other and throw each other under the bus. Yes. Yep. And then back up and roll over them again.
It's funny, Al.
That's the most fun.
Larry's daughter just graduated high school, and she was at Larry's parents' house, I guess going through a computer, and she dug up a video of Larry and I when we were like 18 or 19 years old. And we were doing the exact same crap that we're doing now.
Just the calendar, when they had calendars. Really quick.
We had big mullet hairdos and stuff, but everything else was the same.
Yeah. So here's my advice: don't change.
Okay. Thank you, Al.
Don't even
way
think it's
easier
possible.
that way. We'll change some things, we'll tweak here and there, but we're all good.
Yeah, but keep the core. That's the thing, the core.
All right.
So Al, I want to introduce you because you're an amazing guest and you've been here a bunch of times. But I have a really good outline for you here. Al Levi, friend and colleague.
Congratulations for getting it right, Levi. Thank you.
Yeah. I practiced it.
Yes.
Successful friend and colleague. He's been a successful owner of a plumbing business in Long Island, and he is also the president of 7 Power Contractors, author of the 7 Power Contractors. It was an awesome book. We give that away all the time. Consultant, columnist of Plumbing and Mechanical and Reeves Journal, and now the new creator of the signature staffing system S3, which we're going to go over today. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Al.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, goodbye. It was a great podcast. Oh no, sorry.
Everybody go to 7powercontractor.com /
Thank you all for listening and tuning in. It's been a great podcast. But yes, I do appreciate it. To be clear, we were in the plumbing, heating, cooling, electrical. We added on trades as we went. And this actually touches to what we're talking about, is that once we learned to do what we needed to do, we could go into different trades, because originally we were in the fuel oil business, and Eric, you guys both back east would know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
For those, fuel oil was heating. And of course it's gone away to a great extent, but we think propane, if you don't know what fuel oil is, for heating. So that was our business. And I could pretty much see ahead that it was going to disappear on me unless we began to do gas heating and air conditioning and plumbing. but there's ways to go into these trades. Because if you stink in the trade you're in right now, here's my advice. Don't take on another trade. Please don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
this may be who you are now.
if I just do plumbing, I'll be so much better at that.
You will be if you do one trade really well. I hear you.
Al, many of our listeners have heard about you and heard you, but tell everybody who the we is. I mean, you have your
Okay.
whole family. You got a really cool story back there.
Yeah, my business was started out of my grandfather's gas station. My dad and my uncle in 1936. So I arrived as the third generation with my two older brothers. I worked with them for 26 years before I went off to do what I've done for the last 20 years. And so, yeah, we were on. I'm told I still have a little bit of an accent. And
Yeah, a little bit.
Yes,
No,
a little bit.
nothing.
Yeah, just a tiny bit. You guys know what I mean.
Hey, what's
So,
going
yeah,
on there?
yeah,
Huh?
no problem. So I was, if you know where JFK Airport is, just go down to the water. That was our service area in Long Island. And they named it right, by the way. It was tip to tip 115 miles in New York traffic, which is why we had one main shop and a bunch of spokes.
Yeah.
So if you can't manage, and you guys cracked me up that one time when I share this story all the time. I always talk about if you couldn't go across the street if you don't have systems and platforms. And the two of you started cracking up and I hadn't finished my story. And I go, what's so funny? And then you guys go, we tried to take a place next door and it was like two sides of the earth.
Oh. Now, 115 miles, 115 feet, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
If you're not in the building, and you don't have it dialed in yet, you're going to have problems.
Absolutely right. That's what we're talking about today and for every other day, and learning how to become systematic. And, again, from a business, by the time I had arrived, it had been in business for 40 to 50 years. So you want to tell me about how hard it is to change inertia?
Oh, yeah. And your family as well. Your strong father, your brothers.
Yeah.
telling
And
you
I
to
was
kiss
the
your ass,
youngest.
really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Larry, I was the youngest,
Yes.
the last to arrive officially.
Yeah. You're super popular. Hey, I'm here now and we're going to change everything.
Yeah. We're going to get this place organized and systematized, and we're all going to have a life, and we're going to make more money without as much, grief and stress. Sign me up. No, that was not their response.
Well, not only that, and I think every listener can relate to this, but as you start to put those systems, we're going to talk about systems, everybody. Al's the king of systems. I say that all the time. The people that have been there a long time are going to be the people that push back the most, especially if there's a lack of accountability, because they don't want more accountability,
Well, the analogy I always use is, as a dog, they've been able to have the free run of the yard. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to tell them to sit and heel, and it's going to be a little pushback.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
more
they
people
love that
than not-
analogy.
more people are really wanting, and I will tell you why they wanted it at our company. First thing is they wanted that org chart that we created, what I call the right box org chart, which is for companies from 1 million to 150 million. It's the same box org chart. I don't even care if you're an owner operator. Here's the bad news. You have all those boxes to fill. Now, if you're a bigger company, you can have more people, but the boxes are the same. They don't change. And the reporting order. But before that, here's why they were adapting. And again, was a New York City union shop. So when you tell me about how people in Iowa won't go for this, I have been in Iowa multiple times. They have bought into this hard. Here's why. Because they don't know where they are today. They don't really know who their boss is, because when they walk around your shop, everybody yells at them as if they were their boss. They don't know where they can go with you. So what we tried to become and really succeeded at was, we determined a long time ago that we could be the employer of choice, because it was a very competitive market, not unlike what you guys are going through right now and just went through. It comes in waves. So you may get a little relief as things back off. This will be back again if you don't learn to master it. So they want to know, where are the boxes that reflect their growth, and how do you go up, and what are you going to do as owners to take me up those boxes so I really have a career? And that was really good. And then, so the org chart really changed things in multiple ways. One of the ways that it changed it is, I did mention there was a dad and two older brothers. So trucks was a big thing. we had 70 trucks, 7-0. So you can imagine truck insurance was important, right? Well, that just meant Al goes out and gets 3 insurance bids. Richie goes out and gets 3 insurance bids. And Marty goes out and gets 3 insurance bids. And when we finally did the org chart, we go, whoa, 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 whoa. Marty, that's your job based on this box. You go get the bids, then make a presentation to me and Richie, and then we'll make a decision. We wasted so much time because we didn't know where we were. Now, even in very large companies, your name can be in multiple boxes. And it's actually easier when you have an appropriate operating manual that covers 80% of it so that you can fill the box. What I love is you guys are primarily CSRs. When the phone rings, you're the happy hostess in the restaurant. Make me feel like a good thing that I called, that I didn't interrupt your day, which Larry from New Jersey, you know what I mean? That attitude comes across.
Does it? Yeah.
You talking to me?
Yeah, and so, you want to make a reservation? When are you coming? Yeah, just tell me real quick.
And make sure it's cash. So anyway, there's just, it's that cultural thing, and your voice in a split second either attracts or repels. So these things that you need to learn as a CSR, as a dispatcher, or tech, and then frankly, all of these things takes training. But having the boxes and the org chart and the manuals allows you to get cross-trained. So primarily a CSR and a backup dispatcher. Dispatcher's sick today. What should we do? Not dispatch? Or do we have the ability to swing somebody over? And the phone over rings, goes to the dispatcher desk. They switch gears, and they can be an expert CSR for that moment. Cross-training really makes a world of difference. And even going one step further, as we added trades, the way we stepped into trades is we created the manual first, and then we created the training, hands-on training module that goes with it based on what was in the table of contents of our manual. And then we built the training curriculum that acts like a bridge. And that is what staffing is really about. So the manuals, the org charts will take control of your company today, which is great. It gives you the platform for as big as you want to get. Also great. But if you want to have the ability, because we got sick and tired, and I'll apologize if anybody's listened to the podcast before, but the best and stupidest conversations I would ever have is with my brother Richie at 2 a.m. in the office, because we were the last 2 of 25 techs standing. And Richie would turn to me and go, why don't these guys do this? And why don't they do that? And why don't they do this? And, and finally exhausted, I just looked at him and I go, Richie, if they could really do all of that, why are they working for us instead of down the road owning their own company?
Totally.
One. Yeah. Number 2 is there are no clones coming. And when I said this to him, I had read something about a sheep being cloned. I didn't even know what cloning was so many years ago. But it's really every owner I've ever met and worked with is desirous of a clone, so they don't have to talk to them. They don't have to communicate with them. They don't have to do any of this system stuff.
Well, and they don't have any skin in the game other than a job.
Yes.
We all act like everybody should be us, but we have all the skin in the game and they have none. They can go get another job. They know that.
No, they can go down the road, especially if they didn't know it this time. If you couldn't go down the road and get another job, well, then you're not really employable because you're back to what my brother Marty, who never really turned the wrenches. He was the financial guy, which was a good thing because me and Richie didn't really have much tolerance for it. But Marty created the famous how we used to recruit and hire and orient, train, and retain. Somebody would leave. We would find their keys somewhere. And we go, are they gone? And of course they were. But at this point, we're desperate. So Marty nicknamed our recruiting hiring the mirror test, which means in the mirror, you fog it. And so we had to go from reactive to proactive.
Yeah. Well, let's take that as the perfect segue. So Al, can you explain, because I know a lot of people have listened to the previous episodes, right? So let's explain, the SOMS program, how that works, and then how that leads into S3. Like if we could just kind of work that whole timeline so people understand how they can put the two together and which goes before what.
And so for those of you who are listening, there is a test on every podcast of theirs I've been on. We'll be sending it out in a follow-up form, correct? No.
Yeah.
See,
That's gonna
that
be
was a
on
little
me.
New York sarcasm. Anyway, yes. So when I finally put the manuals together, and when I say I had tried for years to put manuals together because I knew I needed them. Once I read this book, which was a wonderful and awful experience in the same thing, the book that was seminal for me was Michael Gerber's E-Myth.
Yeah.
And I know it's made a tremendous comeback now, but it's not new, guys. It's been around since the 90s. So I read that book because my good friends who loved me could see I was on a very bad path.
Yeah.
And there's a reason my tagline has always been less stress, more success, because that's what I wanted for me.
Yeah.
So that's what I want for people as well. We didn't have any systems. We didn't know what we were doing. If I showed up a job, I would judge you, Eric, as doing a good job one way. Larry shows up and he goes, that's not how we want to do it. And there was never any standardization of anything we did, including answering phones, dispatching, running calls, follow-up, or even the work we did, whether it was a toilet reset or a frozen air conditioning coil or whatever trades that we did, or blinking lights as electrical. All of that was just like, however you were trained and however you fell out of bed today, good luck. So I started to write these, this is the signature operating manual system. So I have been trying to write it for a long time. And every time I did, it came out like a law book. Article 1-.37.
Yeah, all the technicians can't wait to read
They
that.
can't wait to read that. I couldn't even, I was falling asleep at the keyboard when I was writing it. So I knew now when I read Michael Gerber's book that if I was always working in the business, which I was, and never on it, nothing was going to change. So finally, what I did is I hired my good friend, Dan Holohan, who was an industry writer and a very good friend of ours and a heating guru. And all roads connect between myself, Ellen Rohr, and Dan Holohan, the triumvirate. And so I said, Dan, I'm not having this. He says, well, hire me. I'll run the meetings and do the rest of it. Fast forward to this is we spent $150,000 in today's money back in the late 90s to put these manuals together. And they are a fraction of what is here today. And it was only for the fuel oil trade that we were in because we hadn't branched out to other trades. We paid that off within 2 years. And the question people ask is, well, how is that possible? Our callbacks were killing us. So we could never get to new work.
Yep.
And we had plenty of calls. We could never maximize each call because we didn't have a best practice for whatever work we were doing. We were fumbling the calls. So it was like a bathtub full of calls with a drain wide open. That's how I call bad CSRs.
Yeah.
Marketing tub wide open. And dispatching was a problem. Billable out, you just name it. All of it was the problem.
But it's funny. I'm going to interject real quick because
Yeah,
I think people can relate to this. It's like we all say, like, I don't have time to build systems or put systems in play, but we always have time to go fix the problem and spend the money to go, put out the fire. So, like, pick your poison. You're going to do it ahead of time or you're going to do it after the fact.
I was always acquiring companies. And so when I wanted to go into plumbing, gas heating, and air conditioning, I had a good friend who had a small company really well. And a matter of fact, he was in Nexstar with me. And so I thought, okay, this is going to be easy because he's going to, this shouldn't be hard at all to integrate it to our companies. And we had acquired a lot of companies over the years. And I said to him, how come you're not doing the ride-alongs on the regular basis that we need to do? He goes, oh, I don't have the time. So I said to him, so explain to me, how do you have the time to fix all their mistakes? Because that's what you do. And then here's what I can also share is every time you ride with them, here's what I guarantee you. Sales get better, callbacks go down, their technical work is better. So you tell me where is a better use of time. It's the oldest of the oldest thing, which is the two of you are chopping trees with dull axes. I come up to you and I go, hey, if you come with me, we can go sharpen this axe and we can chop these trees faster. And you go, I would, except I'm very busy chopping this tree down with a dull axe.
I don't have time to go sharpen that axe.
I don't have time to go sharpen that. So why did I do it? And most things, I'd love to tell you, like you guys would know, is do we finally make the change because we want that so bad, the gain? Or is it we've gotten sick of being in the pain point? And it doesn't matter. But for me, it was really just about the pain of this. I just couldn't take it anymore. I didn't have a life.
I think
was
that's
making
with
a lot of
most
money.
people.
Yeah,
that's with us. We're the same way. It's just the pain is so much better than other things that are happening.
yeah. And for me, the other thing too was I know I got labeled as the system guy, which I appreciate, but really I was the sales and marketing guy. I was selling $1 million as a part-time job at my company in the 90s because I had a million other jobs to do. And I was also really good at marketing. And my team was really good at blowing up all my sales, which is why I had to backtrack and why I had to put the systems in place so that we could become systematic.
Yeah.
So this program that I did at my own company is what I went off to share with others.
Yeah.
It's one of the 7 powers, and it used to be called operating power, but it's now the program online is Signature Operating Manual System.
Yeah.
That's SOMS. And it comes in 2 flavors. They both have access to the 23 videos, which is what I used to do because it isn't words on a page. And today, of course, it's words on a digital device. Nobody prints them up anymore, which is better because you never have an old copy. And when you leave, I just take your email out, you're gone. And so it's a lot of great things about digital, easier to search, things of that nature. But it's more than words on a page. It's learning from me what to put in, how to tweak it, not how to rewrite it, because it's really about 90 to 95% the way it should remain. If you are changing way more of that, here's what I guarantee you. You are trying for the perfect manuals, and you had no manuals when we started.
Yeah.
So you're just going to make them bigger, which because it's digital, you think, what's the harm? But there is a harm. You're supposed to know what's in your manual because we roll them out together. And then every week we're doing a page or 2 of them and keeping it in the culture. So what you're learning is how to get the buy-in on the front way, how to edit it right. What is the tone of these manuals? Because I know when you're yelling at me, because the font all of a sudden went to 85, or it's in red, or it's in bold. I mean, really, come on. And if the whole manual is don't do this and don't do this and don't do this,
right.
I ask you, have you guys ever raised your kids? How well did they just saying don't or no to them really work? The answer is they stop hearing it. So yeah, those are some of the things. So it comes in basic and all access. So the videos are the same. There's a 57-page workbook that you print up. And basically what it's like is an install exit checklist. But really, I'm your virtual trail guide and you're climbing this hill with me. It's really helpful to have an experienced trail guide. That's what you're doing. The difference is basic gives you what I call the triangle of communication. The CSR, happy hostess in a restaurant, capture the information, let you know that life will get good when Al the Great Tech comes. And this is how we do business, collect money at the time. I'm going to book the call. If there's any changes, the dispatcher will reach you. Now, if your company's big enough, shift over to a dispatcher. And by the way, as soon as you can separate CSRs from dispatchers, here's what I can tell you. For 20 years, more money comes in, more problems go away. Always.
Totally.
Always. Now they can
Two
be
different
cross-trained.
skill
And
sets.
that's where the manuals help.
Yeah, Larry just said it. It's 2 completely different skill sets.
It's totally different. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Because the person on the CSR is really the happy hostess. They have to have personality skills. They have to have some discipline to make sure they got the information right. But they're there to show empathy, to book the call. Whereas a dispatcher, and based on my org chart, they're sitting in close proximity to the service manager for a reason.
Yeah.
Because what they're trying to do is maximize billable hours, which is all we really have to sell. Ellen told me this years ago. She says, the problem with us is we think we sell stuff. We don't sell stuff. We sell our services, our time, and the rest of it.
Sell time. Yeah, and that DSR needs to be a good logistics person.
They do.
That's counter to a good CSR skills in a lot of ways.
Yes. There's a rare unicorn, which today's terminology, where they can be both. Now with training, so if you're a small company, they have to understand that when they answer the phone, they are the CSR and the CSR only, and they are following the CSR manual. The minute they hang up, magically they turned into the dispatcher, and they're in close proximity to the billable, to their service manager to make sure the right texts are going to the right calls, maximizing billable hours, getting all the information out to the tech. Because even though you have great software today, it is not automatic that all the information gets out to the tech. And one of the things I hated years ago as a tech is running a job blindfolded, which means I'd get to your house and I have to go, so what's the problem here today?
Oh, that's the worst.
It is the worst.
So
Or the
what-
fact that you've been here 3 times and 3 times you changed the blower motor. Should I change it a 4th time? Because that must be the trick. So, having the history and stuff is, and you would think it's all automatic with software today. It is way better, but it's not automatic. So they get all the information out. And then the tech needs their manual to do the following. What is it I need to know from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, other than turning the wrenches and screwdrivers, no matter what trade you do? And I've worked with way beyond plumbing, heating, cooling, electric. I've worked with garage door companies. I've worked with kitchen cabinetry companies, commercial roofing companies. Contracting is contracting. And as great as it is to have a trade manual, and I have like 17 of them, that is not the most important. And that is not where companies are broken most. They're broken in that triangle I described.
Yeah. And you got to get the
CSR.
triangle down first.
Yes.
That's like your foundation.
Exactly. Exactly right. The org chart, and then working your way, how do I cover the boxes? Those 3 key manuals are what make the difference. So whether you're a basic member and that's where you end, or if you're an all access member, you have access to all the other manuals. You still start in the same place. And then the other part that it goes to all access is you get 6 30-minute Zoom sessions with me in the first 6 months. I will tell you, maybe 5 to 10% of anybody has even gotten close to using the 6 30-minute Zoom sessions. And I asked one time, I go, look, they're yours. Why are you not using it? So the guy told me, he goes, you promise you won't get upset? I go, yeah, I promise. He goes, when you talk and I ask a question or something, you open up a fire hose and I just wanted a glass of water. He said, but with the videos and the workbook, I just click, repeat, repeat, repeat till I get it. And then if I have a problem, I will reach out to you. But it's pretty much following along, again, the climbing path. But it's nice to have a lifeline.
Yeah. It's like, just put your name, your company name in the slots where it belongs and let's go. Well, I would like to make, one comment about that. You mentioned the percentage a minute ago. You said 80%, right? And one of the things, because I've helped, people, some of your clients, in my coaching, implement the systems and all that. And, and we do it here with people that we coach. It's nothing's ever perfect and full. Like you got to it's the 80-20 principle, right? I'm always preaching that. It's like, look, because I'll say, well, here's the triangle of communication. And they're like, well, what if this happens? And what about this one? And what about that one? And it's like, well, then you deal with that one when it happens. But if we can get 8 out of 10 just on autopilot, we're good.
Yeah, no, it changed our lives when we could let go of the 20 weird.
Yeah.
But part of it is, for most of us, we were really good techs who became owners of companies in the majority. Now, there are obviously exceptions to that.
Yeah.
And what made us a great tech is everyone else at the company had failed to fix this, but I'm not leaving till it's working. So I'm going to be Mr. Perfect. And I'm going to remember it. But here's what was funny. Can I share a story? Was that Richie and I, we were still young men, and we were talking about, again, at 2 a.m., I said to him, what's the sweet spot for a tech age-wise? I already had the number in my head, and instantly he said 25 to 40. I said, that's amazing. I was going to say the same thing, but what's your reasoning? He goes, because by your time you're 25, you've gone through the training, you pretty much have accounted everything, and frankly, you have enough energy to overcome your dumb mistakes. And by the time you're 40, you've seen a lot more. I said, okay, so what happens after 40? He goes, well, after 40, your bifocals are needed. Your hearing starts to go. Your knees hurt a little more. Your back hurts a little more, which is why we had the field supervisor program. So they're not working as much as techs.
Yeah.
He said, but that's not the trap. I go, what is the trap? He goes, at 40, all of a sudden, instead of following a systematic way to do anything, like in your case, when you do carpet cleaning or restoration, you don't just start in one room and put yourself in the corner where you have to walk all the way out. It's kind of like painting, right? You don't paint yourself into a corner, hopefully.
Right.
So the same thing applies to the trades as well, is that you got to watch there's a process to this. So we start to remember the one job that was weird that tricked them out. And then all of a sudden, they're always looking for that one weird job that tricked it out. So it never happens again. And all of the systems and all of what made them great start to fall away.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really, really good point. Okay, so if they get the triangle down now, and then they start moving on. So I want to kind of walk us all through this whole thing. So the triangle's done. They've got it in place. They're doing awesome. Now, what are some of the other systems that they can start working on?
So if you're all access, you do rinse and repeat because you know the process already. And now you roll out the accounts receivable, accounts payable, all of the manager manuals, the install field supervisor, the apprentices, all of the boxes, and then all of the trades. You just do the same process. If you're basic, you have those 3 manuals and you put those in place and you're happy, you can stop. If you want more, then you can buy like one trade if that's all you want to do. But be aware, if you do more than one trade, it's not really the best way to go. Many people, because they're smaller size, and that's typically $2 million a year or less in annual sales, where they start off with basic and then they upgrade to all access, which is kind of like going to dinner a la carte. You're still going to get all you want. You're just going to pay more that way.
Right.
Whereas all access gives you all of it, plus the support calls and things of that nature. So that's how you kind of can go through either one of those programs. But the idea is the org chart is the bingo board that runs your company. And your job is to cover every one of those squares with its own manual. And that's what you're looking at on your, you guys have your own page for this, but that afterwards they can look at it. It's all there. Yep. That org chart is there. The manuals are there. And you have quick video tours of them because I want you to know what this is, because I will share with you. I spent 1 year while I was working sitting in every one of those boxes just to put in the outline.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, it was just the barest of skeleton. And again, that was just in the one trade that we did at the time.
Yeah. It's funny. You're talking about the org chart. It's shocking to me how many companies don't have one.
We didn't have one for
exactly
50 years.
36 to 90. Yeah, for 60 years.
Yeah, but hang on a second now. There's so much on the internet and podcasts and people just putting information out. I mean, it's so available. And so many people are saying it. Start with your org chart. I listen to you on your podcast, Tommy Mello on his podcasts. Every Facebook page talks about, not every, but a lot of them do.
A lot of them do. No question about it. And Tommy is a firm believer. Now, I worked one-to-one with Tommy. Yeah. And I also worked with a great electrician, Keith Pinkerton, in Alabama, Tennessee. He had probably about 10 shops. Yeah. And we were at Tommy's vertical track event. I took the 2 of them out to dinner because he was in town. And I looked at the 2 of them and I said, I just want you to know, when I worked with the 2 of you at the end of December 2019, I said, it's never going to get better than this. I'm going to hang up my one-to-one career. And then I looked at them and I said, just so you know, you broke me. And the 2 of them did a high five, which I thought was wrong. But they both, if you ask them today, they will tell you the company came under control. But here's the thing, it's the right box org chart for contracting. And yeah, I'm prejudiced because it's got, starting in my own company in 96, but working all the way through from 1 million to 150 million, that box org chart is where it starts, then creating the depth chart, and then the flow of communication, and then unpacking the manuals that begin to do it is this process. But Larry, you asked a great question. And of course, I'm guilty of it too, because now I'm in so many Facebook groups trying to share some knowledge. What I've always shared is, how do you know if you're speaking to a genius or an idiot?
Tell us, Al. I'm done.
And the other part of it too is, even if you have great advice, and you guys do, and I have great advice, it doesn't all fit together. So the same analogy I used in the book, which is, if I gave you the power to build your dream car, would you start with a Ford chassis, a Toyota engine, Hyundai seats? No. It's got to be, they have to be integrated in a certain way. And like when you do these morning tech meetings and the rest of it, they only get better once they have manuals. We had meetings for one reason only, Eric, with our techs years ago, to yell at them.
Yeah.
Now
That's
we
so
weren't even,
that's so productive.
it was very productive. They were on their edge of their seat because they couldn't wait to come.
Yeah. Thinking about where they're going to go and look for a job next.
Yeah, they're so excited to come to work.
Actually, it was even worse because we would yell at them, or, whatever, or let them go. But ultimately, somebody did something that would tick us off enough that we pulled them all off the road. And we hadn't had a meeting in 6 months. So now you have to sit in the chair for 6 hours to hear about all of our grievances.
Oh, yeah.
And in this room, which is why I built my training room only to hold 15 people, you're looking around and going, the only reason I'm here is because Larry screwed up. We all know. So it was worthless. One of the things I share in the All Access is in my vault is about the meeting guidelines and also how to run productive meetings, because we had anything but that until we got really great at great meetings. The better your resources, and yes, the better your systems are, the more you're set up. So
look, Larry and I know that firsthand. That was what we used to do.
as far as wait till somebody messed up enough.
Yeah, and then have a big meeting and yell at everybody and so why are you guys ruining my life and whatever else, and then they all sit there and roll their eyes and go, "This will be over in an hour," and then we'll just go back to doing what we do.
Yeah. It always made us feel good. It was kind of like our memos before we had manuals. We write memos.
Memos.
Yeah. So Richie wasn't very good at typing. So he would just say, because I was good at typing, he would just tell me what he wanted me to write as a memo. And so I'd write it up and he'd look at it and he goes, "Good. Can you make it tougher?" So I would put it all caps because now we're serious.
Yeah. Now, well, that's yelling on paper.
Right. And then, of course, one more thing is to put it in color. So we got them all out there and we felt good about ourselves, but they changed nothing because memos and talking are the two worst ways you can communicate because they are one-way communication. It's very funny. As owners, we usually are good at sales. And we all know that if you ask good questions and let them talk, they're buying. But magically, when we get into meetings or communication, all of a sudden we just talk.
Yeah, sales and leadership.
Never listen.
Two different skill sets.
Well, it's because in essence, we're buying. So we're the client of that technician or CSR. So we feel like we get to say whatever we want.
And it doesn't change anything. At the end of it, we felt good because we just burnt all this paper up. So because we had printed all these one-way memos, it's really bad. But so this program has been around for a while now, this online program and helping contractors. Now it's funny what happens. I put it on, it had been online even before I hung it up in 2019. It had been out there for since 2016. And I envisioned that, United States and maybe Canada. Well, it's caught on in Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and the UK.
Yeah, of course.
So again, I love when people say, well, that may not work where I am in Wisconsin. I go, really? Because
works in South Africa.
I've been to Appleton, Wisconsin, in case you want to know. So yeah, it works everywhere you go. And yeah, it's much easier to be an editor than a creator.
Yeah.
So let me transition to the second thing. So when I would come to do the 7 powers, it was planning and operating power, which I just discussed. But what they really wanted was to take control of their company, which we did in the first step, in the manuals and systems and the org charts, which begin to calm the waters and put the platform in. And there's only 2 types of companies where they're great owners, they work themselves to death, but what they find out is they can't replicate themselves. And so they get topped out. Or giant companies like Tommy's when I first arrived, they were a monster company. But every time the phone rang, it was gasoline to a fire because they didn't know how to handle it. So either one of these companies need exactly the same structure. But what we all want and what I wanted, I don't want to keep on hiring retreads because the 2 of you are lying to me about what you can do.
Yeah.
Because in an interview, if I ask you, so do you Do you know how to change out a kitchen sink? What is the only answer I will ever get?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do it all the time.
And you may not be lying. You may have watched your uncle do it on a weekend.
Yeah, I was going to say, doesn't mean you do it well.
It doesn't mean you do it well. And also, just because even if you're quote unquote trained, well, you're not trained according to the way we do it at the 7 Power Contractor or Super Tech U.
Yeah, exactly.
Until you define it. So what we finally realized when we were getting out of this retread and taking their word for it is we came up with, in this signature staffing system, which builds on this first program, is really the 5 steps of staffing, which I've talked about before, is always recruiting, which we didn't, which is why we had a mirror test.
Yeah.
Always hiring, always orienting. I didn't even know the word orienting existed originally, because by the time you showed up, I was so desperate. I literally threw the truck keys at you and hope you caught it. Because
go get him, Tiger.
Orient you.
Yeah.
Not going to orient. You got to get out there and do something. Then, of course, ongoing training, which is structured and, in a documented system. And the last piece most of us forget is we think they're on the team until one day they're at our door or they're just gone. So the last piece is always retaining. Yeah. And I learned some very big skill things about how to get better about keeping them on the team. One of them, of course, is offer really a career and not a job. So in the .com 2020 years ago, my guys were getting pirated. They were calling them up at home and just badgering them. I didn't lose anybody that wanted to be here with me. And so the reason they didn't go is they knew their upward path. They had already come up from young, willing apprentices with no skills to junior techs, senior techs. And because our company was going and growing, we needed field supervisors, which is not necessarily the best name because they don't ride around all day. Their job is to help their team, because at companies that get to 8 to 12 techs, service techs, or 3 install trucks running every day, 3 install trucks, the install manager becomes the choke point. You can't give all the support and can't get out to the jobs and do the rest of it. And when you have 8 to 12 techs, all of them trying to go through the service manager for their sales, operation, technical support, going to be a problem. So we create 2 field supervisors. But in this program, signature staffing system, so we go from the 5 steps, and then we take these young, willing apprentices, get them to be junior techs, which is taking the manuals and unpacking it, having the right hands-on training center. And how do I know it's the right hands-on training center? Because I built it wrong multiple times. And I've watched others do it as well. What goes in your training center is actually dictated by what's in your operating manual, because this is the task they must show us. I'm going to teach them. I'm going to do it. They're going to watch and read the manual. Then they're going to do it. They'll read the manual. I'll watch. And then I'm going to get a cup of coffee and see if they can do it. Or I'm going to actually make sure I incorporate the 3 most important skills for service tech is, number 1, can you sell it? Number 2, are you neat and clean operational? And number 3 is, can you actually do an expert repair so we won't be back tomorrow and close out that sale the right way? So that's what goes on in the hands-on training center. So there's the manuals, the right hands-on training center. Here's the piece that everybody's missing, is you need a formalized training curriculum, and you need to be better at becoming your own trainer. Now, that doesn't mean you wouldn't have outside training, not at all. But 80% of what we tried to do was to be our own trainers for this, because what we found out very quick, sorry for laughing, I'm just having I'm in a flashback.
Yeah.
Is talking to Richie, and I go, so who's going to do all this training? And so he goes, can we get somebody to come in? And I go, Richie, think about it for a sec.
Yeah.
How many times have you had experts at a subject matter, but unless you know how to learn in your sleep, you're not going to learn because they're so boring. And so they're not good at what they do. And then there's the charismatic person, but heaven forbid you ask them any question with any substance, and quickly they know they don't know what they're talking about. So we took it upon ourselves to become better trainers, which I call guideline to trainers, is a very big part of this program.
And also, you're doing it and you're building your team, doing it how your company wants it done, that you guys know what works for you.
Yes. And
that had to have been so hard for you guys, because you guys are aggressive, strong individuals. In the training, you have to be calm and cool and listen and pay attention. And, like, again, another skill set. So what did you guys do for each other to keep yourself in check for not scaring away every new guy that came in?
Well, for us, we had to learn a couple of skill sets. And fortunately for me, I was a next star at the time. But one of the skill sets was being from New York, and you'll appreciate this being from Jersey. We loved when we could expose somebody for not knowing something. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Come here. Eric doesn't know which one of these circulators go in. And we just have a merry old time talking about that and laughing hysterically. Well, let me ask you, what we finally realized is, are you ever going to expose what you don't know? Because you oversold yourself in an interview, right?
Yeah, of course.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm going to fix that in the training center with the manuals, but the reality is it goes on. So myself, my brother Richie, and my service manager had to learn how to say the following. Now, we started when we said it because it was hard for us to say the following words.
Exactly.
Whatever you don't know is now my responsibility to show you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show you, and then you're going to demonstrate you can do it. And if I find in the field that you're not doing it, it's not going to be a teaching moment. It's going to be a write-up on steps of corrective action. Are we clear? So we made it free for them to show what they didn't know.
Yeah. And then at the training center, they can say, you know what? I don't know. So go ahead and show me, because they're like, I don't want to get written up. So I might as well just say, I don't know now.
We didn't even, people have asked, well, okay, that's great for the apprentice, young apprentices. They'll do what we want. By the way, they're always your best selling techs. And in my opinion, they will always be your best techs ever.
Yeah.
As long as you separate them from the people at your company who refuse to do your systems and follow your way. Because no matter how good you train them, when they get partnered up with them, they're going to follow whoever they are. So going through the systems and doing this training begins to allow us in the software to put check marks of what you're allowed to do. Because a lot of times people, when I would come to their shop and go, I have a dispatch problem. I have a dispatch problem. And I go, well, maybe you do, but I don't know yet. And part of the problem is they were they didn't know what these people really were capable of and what they could do. It was all opinion based versus taking them in the training center and making them go start to finish and click off. So for experienced techs, they go, what should I do with my experienced techs? I said, you know what they say about assume? So don't assume that they know this. And here's what we say. Look, we're all moving ahead. You guys want to climb the ladder. I don't know what you do and don't know. It's safe at this point. We're all going to go through the manuals and we're all going to take a crack at this. And there is no judgment, because if I see any of it, you guys are going to be out.
Well, and if somebody came to you from another shop that they had been at 10 years, maybe that other shop was doing it completely differently than you want it done. So in their mind, they're thinking, I'm good at this, or I know how.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it fits your system.
No, not until you define your system. So that's what I always say is if I gave you 10 expert techs, and if you're in the heating, cooling business, if you sent them an hour from your shop, what's the chances that they would show up at these jobs that have a frozen air conditioning coil and do it the same way? I'll help you out. 0 to none.
Yeah.
Until it's been defined, until you've trained it in the training center, until you simulate the problem the right way. There's a lot to know about how to build the right training center, the right training room, how to get better as the guidelines of trainer, and how to have this training curriculum. And it builds on top of each other is what I'm trying to do. So here's the piece I want to know. So when you get to be big enough, 8, 12 techs, what I was sharing with Larry and Eric before is, you know what, we need somebody to step up and be a manager, of the team out there, because they need support help. You two guys are good tech. Why don't you become the field supervisor?
Oh yeah, because my leadership and managerial skills are so well defined.
So transferable. I like on my personality test. I like to work alone. So
exactly.
You want to lose.
Look, it's kind of like but the reality is what I always say is, because I don't have a better example, is if you asked me to be a boss, which really they're supposed to be more like a big brother, big sister. But if you ask me to be a boss, I'm going to put on the stream the horrible bosses. And that's what it's going to be because we don't know when we get asked to be in a management position. We either think we have to be this terrible, awful person to maintain control and be the boss, or we want to be everybody's best friend and get walked over, and they're both wrong.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of skills that have to be learned in this program called Senior Tech to Field Supervisor, because it's a qualify, compete, and train. Even if the two of you would make the best field supervisors, if I appoint you, the rest of the shop just goes, sure. Al, Eric, and Larry, they go fishing together on the weekends. I never had a shot. So we wipe that away with qualifying. Then they compete.
I've lived that.
And ultimately train. It makes a world of difference. And part of what you were talking about, we had a brain drain going on in our company years ago, 40 and up. And how did I know? Because one day, as I'm driving to go do a no heat call, and I probably was in my late 30s, I thought to myself, if I wasn't the boss's kid, what would I be thinking? And immediately I said, oh, joy, going to run another no heat call today.
Yeah.
And if I'm smart, maybe I'll just go down the road, get myself a white truck and go into business. How hard can it be? I'll sell it for a couple of dollars less. And it's a natural entrepreneurial seizure moment because we don't know what we don't know. We didn't realize it to make the phones ring, marketing and planning and operations and staffing and legal and just go on 1,000 things it is to be in business. So what we created, the field supervisors, we told the top guys that competed for this is basically you get to run your own company with our set of rules. And when your team does better, more money flows to you.
Right.
But it's a rented position, which is you can't stay there and fail and sabotage your team, which they know on page 1 of their manual.
Yeah.
Field supervisor manual.
No, that's awesome. And, you made the point out earlier, you were saying how in the .com, you weren't losing people, but I just want to make it clear to everybody listening. It's like the reason you weren't losing people is because you had systems in place, you were growing, but you couldn't grow without the systems already being in place. So therefore people are staying because they're going, this company's going somewhere and they continue to grow. So there's going to be opportunity for me. But if you have a company that's just in chaos every day and putting out fires and not growing, when things happen like that, people will leave because they see no future.
Yeah. Quick story. Today, my brother lives all the way across the street from me in Arizona here, but he's back in New Jersey right now. So the exterminating company shows up. They didn't call us. They didn't text us. I have to head out. And there is actually no reason because they were here a week ago. Talking to the tech, I go, this is frustrating. When I was a tech, I hated showing up to a call not knowing. And he goes, you think this just happened to you? This happens all the time. I'm out of here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You want to call up the owner and sell him a couple manuals.
Yes, I guess so. Yeah.
So Al, how does the S3 system get implemented? Like, can you kind of walk us through that? Because we did that with SOM. So let's do it with.
So the same thing goes. There's video lessons where I'm doing what I did with staffing when I did it with people one-to-one about how to get the 5 steps of staffing and unpacking that in greater depth with forms. There's a lot of forms that go with this that are time tested and not like old. Talking about recently. And
you just built this out. Right.
I did, but it's still on the same platform. And it's the case of where you go through that, and that allows you to do the apprentice to junior tech program that I'm talking about in a way that allows them to take young, willing apprentices with no skills and get them to be a junior tech. So what is a junior tech for those who are asking out there? If the trade manual is 2 inches thick, you're not going to teach them all of that in 4 months. And frankly, if you're I'm in a plumbing company, I'll let you change a toilet, maybe a faucet, but you are not changing a shower body where you got to break tile and marble. You just came out of training 4 months.
No.
So it's kind of like you're asking them, they haven't really run a mile. You want them to do a marathon. So we make it safe. They learn the sales system that you have. They know the operational manuals, train them about the operational procedures of what they have to do, how they have to be neat and clean, all of that. And then technically for the tasks that you have assigned. So what you do in your operations manual, in the trade manual, is just mark senior tech only for the tasks that you have to come back to junior tech to senior tech after they've established in the field that they can sell and do the tasks they're approved for. That's how they move up. And then as the team grows, the last phase of this is senior tech to field supervisor, a formalized program of the Qualify, Compete, and Train. So there's all of the videos associated with the library that you get to download these forms. There's nothing to create, and just be able to energize all these forms so that you can have as many great texts as you want. Tommy went, when I first started with Tommy, probably 2017, he was maybe 15 million. He's on his way to 150 million. It's the same systems and forms. You know, he's obviously doing more and more in the training center because he's a beast. It's the only way I can say it in the best way possible.
He is. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think, when we're talking about, great resignation and having staffing issues and all this stuff, I think this is really important, Al, because, people are going to look at multiple companies probably where they didn't used to. It's just like, whoever hires me, I'll take it. Right. They're going to look at it and say, if they're the good ones, the A players, the B players. So they're going, which company can they sit there and tell me this is how you move up? This is how you move ahead. Because I know for me, when I was a technician, if I see two companies, pays about the same, but one has a plan for me potentially that if I do the work, I can move. And the other one says, yeah, well, let's see. If you do a good job, maybe we'll move you up. But I'm going with the plan every time.
Yeah. I never, at my company, we were 70 people. I always did the recruiting hiring myself. I did have my field supervisors do a part of the role because there was a reason they were basically helping me close the deal because it's a sales call. Yep. But when I would bring them in, I would talk to them about, we don't offer jobs here, we offer a career. So I'm going to take out the org chart and show you where you start. And then I also had a salary ladder or salary levels that literally said, look, you're never coming to me, knocking on my door, asking when your next raise are. You give yourself the next raise, and here's how you do it, which is also part of this staffing program about salary levels and how they get to move. It's in sync with the org chart. It's objective. I used to hate that when they would come to my door and, bother me in the worst time. But ultimately, when I stopped blaming them, I realized the culprit was me. They didn't know when. It was like, I was asking grownups to come to my door and ask for a raise in their allowance. And if I was the other guy on their side, I would have hated that.
Yeah.
So no question about it. If you can really make a career, you are the employer of choice. I mean, I hired 21 to 30. Typical was the age for the apprentices I was goaling for. And they're all the top people at my company today.
Totally.
Every one of them is homegrown. Now, periodically, we went outside the company and we had processes for how to do that better. And there's a lot of job ads and things of that nature. I'm not saying no, but really far and away, the majority of my clients, two things. They didn't have to drop their standards like some of you out there did because you played Let's Make a Deal and broke your salary stuff. And then you also decided, well, they don't want to work on call. So let's just we'll stop answering phones at 5 o'clock. To which I grew up in a very different environment. My dad told me there's 2,000 companies they could have called today. They chose us. So when they call, we go when they call. That was the mantra. And we did residential, commercial, industrial. But the analogy I'd like to share with people is, if you've entrusted me with the safety of your home and family and the rest of it, or even your mom's house, would you be okay? She lives in a 3-story colonial. It's 10 o'clock at night. Her toilet just exploded and it's just cascading down 3 floors. And I go, it sounds great. We start again at 9 a.m. tomorrow. See you then. So I think it's wrong.
You're triggering Larry right now. Al.
Well, because they stole the help. How could they steal the help? They had to drop all of their standards.
Yeah.
And of course, all standards are only important because the customer has to win first, for the company to win second, so the staff wins third. And everyone that I trained understood that pecking order and how it was in their favor that it went that way.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And look, Larry and I sat on a panel at a restoration industry conference recently. This goes hand in hand. And there was a tech company did a big restoration survey, Al. And 59% of all new technicians came from existing technicians, meaning, hey, I have a great job. I have a nice place to work. There's opportunity, come apply where I work. Right. And I can't imagine that changes from trade to trade much.
It doesn't. Referral marketing was applied to my own. I always felt that if I have great staff and they were built themselves, they know other good people.
Exactly.
But I had to tell you that fortunately I had guys at my company who would tell me the truth, whether I wanted to hear it or not.
No, you need that.
And so
yeah,
one of them said to me one day, he says, I'm never going to bring you new guys. And I go, why? He goes, because if they mess up, you're going to blame me. So that was one thing I needed to know. And the second thing he said is, I'm also not going to bring them here because they're going to take my calls. So I just huddled up everybody and I go, I apologize. It was my fault. I didn't tell you guys why this recruiting is in your best interest.
Yeah.
You guys want to go up the org chart. You can't go up unless new people come in beneath you and they move up. So they're actually ensuring your job and where you want to go. So the more you help me, if they don't make it, it's on me, not on you. And the other thing is I've got way more calls than I can humanly do. And if I need to, I can make more, way more.
Right.
They're not a threat to you. And I was grateful for him sharing that with me because I didn't realize why I wasn't going as well as it should have.
Oh, that's true. This is all very, very good stuff. It's very needed. I've said this the last time, but I wish we I wish we knew you when we were like when I was sitting every night building systems in my office till 9 p.m. But, people don't have to do that anymore. They can go to you. So Larry in his New Jerseyness was beating Al up over getting a discount for our listeners. So, Al, you want to share a little bit what that is?
Larry and I speak the same language. He told me he knows people, and I know what that means. So, yes, for the followers of Eric and Larry here, they negotiated a 10% discount from what is the list price for both of those programs. They are two separate links, signature operating manual system, and then the staffing system, which builds on the first program, a separate program. So they'll put out the links to you. There's 7-power contractor /BCN, and then the /S3.
S3 BCN. So we'll put it in the show notes. We'll put it in the show notes.
You pulled your truck over and wrote that down while you heard me say that.
Yeah. So we'll put it in the show notes.
Put it in the show notes. Really do look at the show notes. I honestly would love you to invest in yourself because I see it as an investment, and I really don't think.
And that's what it is, Al. You're doing this. Of course, you're selling a product, but in the long run, the person that purchases this system is going to benefit the most. And the money that they're going to make is dramatically more than they're putting out. And people don't always realize it. Oh, how much does it cost or this or that? And
totally get that. But if I put a tech out these days, they're going to bring me 300,000, and that's not even spectacular in a year. So if I put 3 guys on the road, I'm almost $1 million in sales without really breaking a sweat.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that 10 grand for the staffing program is a lot of money?
Yeah,
so it's like, and there's things that you have to do, but there's nobody that I've worked with who goes, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. The only thing they ever say is, I wish I had done it earlier.
Well, look, I can give a testimonial. I have clients that use your system, and I've seen, the before and after because they're still clients of mine. I meet with them weekly on coaching calls, and I'll give one in particular. I went there 2 years ago, and it was chaos and just, it was unbelievable. It was just no different than when we were chaotic, right? And then I was there recently within the last 3 or 4 months. It's a completely different company because they have the triangle of communication, and they have not every single one is implemented yet, but they have a lot of the other ones in play. And the managers are happy. The technicians are happy. The DSR and the CSR are happier. The owner's over the moon because he didn't think that this was ever even possible for him.
Yeah, that is really does say it. Yeah, people got. I was told years ago, don't ever play poker because my face gives it away. So when I say this to you, and if you're watching or looking, is I was lucky enough to leave my business in 2002 to start this thing. I didn't need to work. So why am I still working? I can't go back in time and it hurts me every time I say this, but I can't go back and the time I lost with my daughters when they were young, or things that I could have done, and I could have made people's lives, and I lost people along the way as far as employees, because I was not prepared. And I don't want you to have a stressful life. I mean, that's for me was the big, yeah, I want you to have money too. I want you to run it. And it's in your best interest to be a successful company. I don't know why there's this shame attached to this. I wouldn't want my dentist to be broke. So,
No. Yeah, you want people to be, dealing, the more successful the company, the generally the better service you get a lot of times, because they have systems in place.
Well, I just tell people all the time, it's your obligation to charge the right price, whatever the right price is, but then deliver on it, because how good is your 10-year warranty if you're out of business? It's worthless. So charge the right thing to do the right thing. There's no begrudging going back. We go back and fix stuff if we have to. The good news is if you have a system, you don't have to start like you haven't been there before.
Yeah. Well, Al, thanks for the time. Listeners, I am going to say those domains real quick, so in case they don't want to read the notes. So for the Psalms manual, it's 7 powercontractor.com/BCN, like blue collar nation.
Forward slash.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
And then for the staffing, the signature staffing system, it's 7powercontractor.com/S3BCN.
Yep. And also I just close with, I have offered for 20 years a free 30-minute call. So if you drop me an email or you go to the chat, my email is al@7powercontractor.com. Say that you heard this, on the morning. I fell into it. Super Tech University.
Yeah, we're still working on getting
I was looking at your hat and then I got messed up with the shirt. But if you just let me know, it's an easy question. Thank you. There's an easy questionnaire. I'm happy to spend 30 minutes. It's not a sales call. I'm happy to talk about these things and how they work, because I'm invested in your success.
Perfect. Well, Al, thank you so much for coming on board. It's always a pleasure to have you on. We always look forward to it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate the opportunity.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye now.